and mimic all those diseases and effects. But the conversations, the scripts they're called, are always the same. I've heard them all. They're slightly tailored for each individual, but they're scripts. And they're meant to confuse, the very derogatory. That's just typical breakdown. If you ever been to boot camp, you're a worm until you're part of the team. And why would you want to break down the ego of that person? To rebuild it. So this gets into creating Manchurian candidates, split personality spies, and information couriers, people that will carry messages to other places without being aware that they're actually doing it. So you can imagine the misperception that is caused by this. And a lot of people, the targets when they're interviewed are tricked into believing evil aliens have abducted their brains, demons.
They're tricked.
Yes.
How are they tricked? Pardon this brief interruption, but I want to take a minute to talk about this incredible supplement.
Some of them are pretty crazy. They have names like Alice in Wonderland, Wizard of Oz, or hypnosis, that people will believe something other than a massive government could do this. And I've heard all the stories. One guy believed it was some 14-year-old kid with an Xbox that lived next door. The trickery really is that great when you're under hypnosis that people will believe something other than a massive government could do this. And so anyway, my interview with Len, he very well described a typical breakdown script that's used on almost all the TI victims. TI stands for targeted individuals. Some of them are pretty crazy. They have names like Alice in Wonderland, Wizard of Oz, and those are the confusion tactics. And when they're breaking down the ego of the human through all the pains and tortures and the verbal breakdown, these are typical CIA torture scripts. I mean, Kubark manual. And they do good cop, bad cop interrogation called Jeff and Mutt, and they go right through the list, right? Just textbook. So whoever the handlers are on the other side of this synthetic telepathy, they're following the handbook perfectly, and they've been trained.
But why Len?
And everyone asks that.
Okay, yeah.
Can I talk? Here's how I do my studies, and I wanted to find the commonalities, but I have to throw away the ones I'm uncertain about that are true targets. Maybe there's natural schizophrenia, there's a whole bunch of chemical imbalances,
right,
et cetera.
Right.
These
Okay, yeah.
Can I talk? Here's how I do my studies, and I wanted to find the commonalities, but I have to throw away the ones I'm uncertain about that are true targets. Maybe there's natural schizophrenia, there's a whole bunch of chemical imbalances,
right,
et cetera.
Right.
These weapons can actually induce and mimic all those diseases and effects. But the conversations, the scripts they're called, are always the same. I've heard them all. They're slightly tailored for each individual, but they're scripts. And they're meant to confuse the very derogatory. That's just typical breakdown. Have you ever been to boot camp?
Repetition is an important neuro-linguistic programming interrogation tactic to influence the target mind. During the breakdown process, threats to kill and to torture the target's family or friends are common. Repetitious questioning and breakdown phrases are automated in both the physical and no-touch versions of torture. An interesting technology that is used for no-touch torture is called chatterbots. Chatterbots, an artificial intelligence program, automate much of the repetition so that the interrogators don't drive themselves crazy during the neuro-linguistic torture and programming phases. Let us not forget the Chinese water torture. A single drop of water received physical pain is only half the story with no-touch torture. It also involves a set of scripts, mind games if you will, to walk the target to murder and or suicide. This
like that, literally one right after another. And then it all made sense when I learned about microwave weapons. In 2015, I began to experience what some call V2K, or voice to skull. This involves the projection of voices, noises, and music directly into my mind to communicate with me in real time and at the speed of thought. And it also includes the manipulation of thoughts, emotions, and perceptions in the person's mind. Additionally, the targeting is all highly perverted and sexual, as well as destructive and violent. Recently, they even started adding moaning and groaning sounds to the V2K and started putting actual creaking sounds directly in the walls to make it sound as though people are having sex. And I was able to audio record these rhythmic creaking sounds and have submitted this file to the commission. These voices are vulgar, violent, cruel, and constantly threatening and using profanities that I never use. They repeat certain phrases excessively, as I learned that repetition is a form of torture in and of itself.
So like I said before, you see these videos, and I just put that in advance. This is basically talking about the scripts and things and terms they keep saying over and over and over to try to disorient you, to make you subscribe to something that is not true, right? It's funny, 2 seconds ago, they're like, they try to vilify you in any ways possible. Listen, I'm not perfect. I'm not going to act like I'm a saint. Of course, they want you to start making yourself think that you're like this, like, either you're this nastiness that they try to make you subscribe to, or you're like a perfect. I'll never pretend to be that either. But I'm just glad I never have to be and to have to do the nasty things they do. So I just wrote down a list of the scripts, right? You just heard about the same things they keep saying over and over, and I'm going to kind of speak about how they want you to subscribe to things. To disorient me, they like to say things over and over and over, and that's why I know that this is a program where they do the same systematic tactics to a lot of target individuals. And you have to deal with the same things that a lot of target individuals, and that's why I see them for what they are. Trash contracted by the government that is implementing this targeting that is global and that is obviously run by these government entities, most likely the DOD, and obviously using DARPA weaponry and obviously architecting this CIA type of tormenting tactics. So some of the scripts and same things they say, they want to distance themselves from being obviously part of this program that you're going to hear the testimony of this woman and children being tortured by. They try to distance themselves because they vilify me and then try to make me think that these people are different from the people who actually do these horrible things to women and children. And so one thing they like to say is, this is our murder, because they're planning on doing something to me. I guess it's going to cost my life. It's okay. Death comes to all of us. I'm just glad that I didn't have to work for this program that does these horrible things to women and children. And by the way, finding out that there's a bunch of pedophiles in these agencies contracting this low life. So that is one way they do these things, like, murder. Try to distance themselves from what they're part of, because they murder women and children too. I don't think that my blood is on their hands. Maybe they might be pressing the buttons on, like, but obviously they're just part of this program that does these things to people around the world. Some of them have done it many times to other people. But you have to understand, see them as just like the bottom feeders. That there's millions of whatever. There's a lot of them that could be doing the same thing to you. It's just you live here, so the people around here are gonna do these things. That's somebody comes back. I see them as that trash that sold his soul to this and these programs and this nastiness that do these things to people. So it's not their murder. I'm one of many deaths. If this one of my death comes because of that, due to the program that I'm putting that has others, thousands of people in this program. So I see them as that. And these people, a lot of them have done this to much more vulnerable people than me. And so that's one of the distancing tactic. Another thing they like to say is, I choose. Like, we choose you because as you're going to listen, they torture women. They don't like that because these people are trying to present themselves for the facade. You see they have facades also. Matter of fact, this kid is like a child. It's like, I dared, which I'm going to speak about what that means. And it's a tactic to try to make it seem like we're different, right? We are this is our money, which is another thing. Script they like to say, our money, we're using our money. We're different from these people that you hear being tortured by. These people, we're not that. Yes, they are that. Absolutely. And they say the same thing over and over. Then they go into like the different torture things they do, right? When they do the preferred type of torture, they like to say black girl, right? This is part of the pedophilia things. Black girl, remember you black girl? That's how you feel if you're a black girl. And then they try to make me think of me as a kid. I was like, black girl, you see? Try to get you to accept this. Obviously, I don't subscribe to this. It's disgusting, but I know it's them forcing me to experience these things. They want you to accept these things. And they're going to repeat that over and over. Black girl, black girl. It's a part of the tormenting portion. And then when they say black girls and you're not subscribing to these things, now they talk about the torture that you're going to experience. Right? And before I say that, there's another thing they like to say is like they are. I'm writing it down because I'm trying to like put things in perspective. They are. This experience that you're experiencing is something that you experience naturally. We find it, we matched it to you at some point. So you felt like this. You've creating this disturbing pedophilia things, and try to make you. Oh, you see, don't you remember feeling something like that? Sometimes, some ways, and they try to manipulate you to experience this nastiness. I think I talked about it earlier today. They do that all the time. Try to get you all black girl. See, you feel those, give me this weird feeling and sensations. Like, okay, you're forcing me to experience this. This is the perfect type of torture that you're doing to me. And because I'm not subscribing to this, and what another thing that's in regard of that, like they are, is like we match to you at some point. You experienced that at some point, so we matched it. And that's the things they like to say. And then it becomes about the torture because I'm not subscribing. I'm not subscribing when they say they matched it. What is what you're forcing me to experience? And then it's like, no, we matched it to you as a kid. It's okay. I know this makes no sense. You matched it to me. You're just forcing my brain to experience this. This is what this program does. It manipulates you to experience disgusting things. And pedophilia type of torment is the norm. You're going to listen to the same things that you heard a lot of times. They do the pedophilia type of torture. It's part of the system of tormenting people. And so then we talk about, in my mind, they try to have this battle, but you felt like this. It's like, okay. Another thing they like to do is say about the torture. Castrate you. He'll fist you. You'll be their meat. They're going to rip your eyes. They will torture you. And so on and so on. It's about torture. All the horrible things they're going to have is they're going to do to me, right? As when I'm not subscribing to these pedophilia things they do to me. Saying the things they say to disorient you and to break you down. And try to make you all, like feel subscriptive to this nastiness that you know is them manipulating. You know. You're going to hear this pedophilia type of torture. One thing they like to also scream out is like, you are pedo. It's because there's a lot of pedophiles in these agencies contracted them. And so to try to counter that, they're like, no, you are pedo. And they use these childlike individuals, or at least what sounds like a childlike individual, to scream that out. But you know the reality of what this is really about. And then one thing they like to do is like them being like, oh, this person who's gonna rape you is very strong and you're very small, because I'm losing strength in all level. Physically, I'm becoming less and less able, mentally and physically, due to what they do to me. And I'm aware of that. And they tell me how I'm gonna be hung, and so on and so on. Another thing they like to say is like, they knew this was gonna happen. They knew that you're gonna experience these things to black girls or whatever, because they knew they're gonna manipulate you to experience things. And that's what they do. But they do the pedophilia type of torture, and obviously before they start applying these things, everything is set up. So do you know that you're gonna experience this thing? They know you're gonna experience this thing because they prepared these things to be experienced. And they go on and go on, and it becomes more and more ingrained. Just to wrap up everything, and then they try to say things like, "Oh, you assume," and try to talk about like the actual things that they try to pretend like they're doing it for this woman. It's like, "Oh, you did this to this." I was like, okay, this is coming from people who torture women around the world, right? I'm not perfect. That's what I'm trying to say. I've done things that I'm not proud of, but I know there's nobody who's thinking about, oh my gosh, get this person. Well, listen to what they do to women, how they do the pedophilia type of torture, and how obvious this thing is. I know what these people are. I understand that makes me be able to deal with it a little bit better, but it's not easy. My brain is completely manipulated and forced to think in these disgusting ways, and then they try to make themselves seem as something else. So stay strong.
Gonna get shot in the face. Sound like an angry ass old person. Then a couple of days later, a female said the same thing. Gonna get shot in the face. Stupid shit like that. But what I really noticed is with the Voice of Skull, it's a bunch of females. And I'm like, bro, really? You're not a woman. What real woman would stalk another female or sit back and allow that to go on? You really think?
Similarly, women can be wirelessly raped by the analogous function of perception. 11. Diet.
Your pelvic area. This also includes many kinds of movements, such as the rocking, swaying, jolting, vibrating, and shaking of my entire body or various body parts, specifically in a sexual way. The severe vibration is a highly noxious stimuli and is very intolerable. They sometimes do pulses or throbbing sensations on the genitals too, etc. There are also body movements such as rocking my pelvic area back and forth, repeated rubbing sensations, the sensation of something going up my crotch and in and out, etc. They also often force vaginal discharges and zap my genitals at the same time. These sexual assaults are present throughout the day, every day, and anytime I am awakened at night, every night. They range from mild to extreme, but usually involve daily and nightly continuous assaults for the past 3 years now. When severe, the zaps to the genitals feel as though someone is electrocuting my genitals repeatedly. I also often see highly disturbing pornographic images and videos, including highly disturbing pedophilia type of images and videos when I close my eyes. It also includes videos of violence and grotesque figures, and sometimes numbers and other symbols used to threaten torture. This forces me to open my eyes, even when I'm so sleep deprived. I experience frequent, severe forced movements of my eyeballs side to side, up and down, and bulging in and out. The forced eyeball movements are very often extreme, and I experience it often for many hours at a time, particularly through the night, nearly every night. This is often combined with other forms of torture. They also inflict forced biting, where they make me bite my hands and arms forcefully, leaving severe bite marks and bruises.
The same thing and show our Defense Department we are not the enemy. We are not to be attacked. We are not terrorists. Most of us are defenseless women.
And I am a victim of organized stalking, electronic harassment, microwave torture, V2K abuse, and I'm asking you to help us end this crime against humanity, which has impacted men, women, children all around the world.
Hi, I'm Wan from Malaysia. My family are targeted individuals. We are victims of cyber torture. And I will not give up. I will fight to the end.
You hang in there.
Hello, I'm making this video to honor the 3rd Annual Targeted Individual Day. That's August 29th, 2020. My name is Linda Marie Sharp in Mendocino County, California, United States. I am a targeted person and have been for over 12 years. I am electronically tortured by directed energy weapons.
Hi, my name is Lisa Davis and I'm in Duluth, Minnesota. I'm here today hoping to help bring awareness to the bomb.
My name is Carl.
In the morning, I can barely even walk. I hope this can be safe.
My name is Ella, and I am a targeted individual.
Hi, I'm Kate Ryan. I'm a TI in Massachusetts, and I'm here,
and I'm speaking to you on International Targeted Individual Day. I live in the U.S., in Illinois, and am a victim of organized
we need
stalking,
this to stop.
Electronic harassment, microwave torture.
I've been targeted for 9 years.
Chicago, I'm a targeted individual for 6
My name is Amanda Mittler.
Ending this crime.
Hello, my name is Wendy Brown. I'm a targeted individual who is living in New Zealand, but my targeting began in California. I'm an American citizen, and the targeting continues in New Zealand. I'm making this video in remembrance of Targeted Individual Day, our 3rd Annual Targeted Individual Day. And I'm asking that every
毎日四六時中監視虐待をされ続けている生活を送っています。
Why? Because it hurts. I need help. I need you guys to come get me. Come get me.
Sometimes making me scratch my genitals so much that it leaves my genitals painfully raw, making it hard to walk or sit or go to the bathroom. I would now like to talk about the people around me being manipulated by these electronic weapons as well. There does not appear to be a need for microchips or nanotechnologies to manipulate the minds and bodies of anyone around me, anywhere in the world, which I have repeatedly witnessed. For example, they make people around me burp, hiccup, and sneeze repeatedly, especially the sneezing, because the V2K says it's like an orgasm. So they make people around me sneeze excessively to threaten more sexual assaults. I am currently a speech-language pathologist working in private practice with young children. I had a 7-year-old client who has autism, and she was the most significantly affected of all my clients. I eventually had to tell this client to go to another clinic. And they used her to threaten the most torture in me, as well as their most extreme forms of torture. For several months, she would cry and scream horribly during our therapy sessions, despite having a great day at school. This was highly unusual behavior for her, as she usually behaved very well during her therapy sessions and had been making incredible progress on all of her therapy goals. This was used to threaten extreme torture on me, making me scream and cry, etc. They would make the kids act out the kinds of torture that would later be done on me. For example, they would also sometimes make her bite her hand, threatening to make me bite my hands, as they often do. One day, she had a large, severe bite mark on her arm. She has also grabbed her crotch, saying, "Ow," and this was used to threaten me with severe sexual torture. One day, I also observed her gasping for air a few times in the same way that I do when I am being more severely suffocated. The suffocation had been in a mild state for a while up until this point. Many of their torture methods are cyclical in severity. Right after I saw this child being suffocated, then I began to experience very extreme suffocation all day, every day, for about 2 months straight, and that's also when they made it worse when I eat. Then I also work with a 4-year-old little girl with Down syndrome, as well as her 5-year-old sister who also has Down syndrome. I observed both of these girls suddenly grabbing their genitals in pain and verbalizing, ow. I observed this at least on 1 or 2 as soon as he entered my office. Once he complained of a roaring, drilling construction sound in his ears that my head talks about masturbation. They talk about masturbation frequently and other sexual things. During one session, I observed one of my 3-year-old clients suddenly grab his crotch and lean forward in his chair. And then he made a frightening grimace of severe pain. I asked him what was wrong and if he needed to use the restroom, but he said no to having to use the restroom and was not able to verbalize anything more due to his language delay. He looked puzzled and bewildered. Even though I had stated that it was time to do more work right before this incident, I quickly just let him play another game, and he quickly returned to his joyful, happy self again. In other sessions, he has also grabbed his crotch and said, ow, while looking up at me. A while back, I had a 4-year-old client at my office who complained of disturbing sounds in his ears when none were around. It only happened as soon as he entered my office. Once he complained of a roaring, drilling construction sound in his ears that I then later heard myself when I got home as a form of V2K, and the
much. I make it so dramatic. It is dramatic. It's somebody trying to end my life. It's somebody trying to end who I am as a person. It's somebody trying to take over my mind, putting thoughts of pedophilia. This disgusting things. You saw where I was going with that first word. Disgusting things that I don't even want to talk about because it makes me sick. I don't even like those words in my mind. But it is what it is. So I have no choice now but to acknowledge that there are people in my surroundings or whatever they're doing. I don't know how they do it. I don't care. I don't know if it's through
secret torture prisons. The targets were forced to perform homosexual acts on each other against their will and religion in order not to be beaten or killed. This is a common breakdown tactic of belief systems and the human will. In no-touch torture, the techniques are more psychologically specialized for each target. Most common examples include homosexual targets that are forced with voices that are derogatory to their lifestyle and similar mental images. Almost all targets are forced to view child pornography in their minds. And vice versa is true.
When I say severe, I really mean extreme. I experienced an entire night with forced spontaneous orgasms repeatedly all through the night, one right after another, with maybe around 1 hour of sleep or so, as I lay immobilized in my bed in complete fear. This experience, along with the brain being microwaved, in the pelvic area. This also includes sometimes making me scratch my genitals so much that it leaves my genitals painfully raw, making it hard to walk or sit or go to the bathroom.